It's actually you remember what is it? The Russian sleep experiment or whatever the hell.
Right.
But just of NPC streamers.
What did they figure out from that? Like, what is the limit of the human body where you can go without sleep?
Well, I don't know if that's like if that experiment was real. But because you hear the story about it, like the one where they're like, I don't know if it's just like a creepy pasta or whatever when they did the sleep experiment and started. What happened?
Wiki says it's a creepypasta.
Yeah, it's a creepypasta.
What is a creepypasta?
It's like a creepy story, like a scary story that
just
people,
a story that people tell, but it's
like,
not real.
But I wonder.
Isn't that like they murdered each other or something like that?
Yeah, they started like murdering everybody. So they say in the story. It's a story.
That makes sense.
But
that makes sense that that's not real.
Did they ever really push that? If they did, they probably won't talk about it. It's so like inhumane. Like, and given, well, you think about, they're gonna kill me. Just like MK Ultra and all that shit, man.
I was about to go there.
All that shit, like, I'll let you talk about it. So I just know what it is, but I don't know anything about it.
It's a real program that the CIA was running, where they were experimenting with people with LSD. To find out what LSD did, and they wanted to know, like, how can we use it? Can we use it to interrogate our enemies? Can we use it as a truth serum? Like, what can we do with it?
By the way, guys, I have no idea what this stuff is.
There you go. and what they did was they started experimenting, and not just the United States. They did it with British soldiers too in the 1950s. There's a video of these British soldiers that they gave them acid. See if you can find that, because it's a wild video. These dudes, they just dosed them up and had them running through the woods. They're like, ah!
Do you have like manhunters on that? You ever watch that show, Manhunter?
What is that?
He's like the guy that he's like, all right, if you can hide, I'm the best tracker in the world. If you can hide from me on my horse, but how do they keep track of what they did in the woods?
That's a good question. How do they, Jamie?
For what, in this case?
Yeah.
They filmed them.
Right, so they
But what if they went super deep?
Yeah, right. How do they keep track of them? Keep them from just going on an acid marathon?
We risk it, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, they didn't give a fuck about these dudes. They were going to send these dudes in front of bullets. I mean, this is the fucking right after storming the beach at Normandy days. These are wild times, man. People just ran into gunfire back then. They were different men.
Are these guys all on acid right now?
Yes.
Now watch them start laughing.
They can't stop laughing. So they're soldiers, and they're sitting there doing their job, but they can't stop laughing. They're just tripping balls. And then later, there's some footage of them in the woods. They took them to the woods afterwards. Or maybe I think might be a different one, because I have not seen this one. But I think they did it with a bunch of people. And they did it at Harvard. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, he was a part of the Harvard LSD studies.
He was a participant.
Yeah.
No shit.
They dosed that dude up with acid.
No shit.
Yeah, they dosed him up with acid. And then he was, he had
Did that guy have a rifle?
Yeah. So these are the guys.
They can give a dude with a rifle LSD.
But yet they did. Look at these dudes. They got cameras and fucking, what is he? He's holding on to his headphones. He's can't
trying
stop
to put
laughing.
the headphones on the tree.
They can't stop laughing. Look, looks like a great drug. And they were like, okay, this has no military purpose at all. We cannot use this. This is exactly the opposite of what we want.
What did they do? Chop it? They're chopping it?
Are they chopping a tree?
I don't know.
This guy's climbing a fucking tree. He's out of his mind.
Why do they have firearms?
Because they were army guys.
That's crazy, though.
Yeah, British Marines, 1964 that was. So what the CIA was doing is they were experimenting with prostitutes. So what they would do is they would set up a brothel, and they would have these guys go in to try to get with the prostitute, and the prostitute was a CIA agent. She would give them a drink that was laced with acid, and they would watch these guys through two-way mirrors.
That's insane.
Yeah, they were just trying to figure out what does acid do. Like,
and
what can we do with
totally unsuspecting.
Yeah. And then there's mind control experiments. There's definitely something going on with Charles Manson, and that's the Tom O'Neill book, Chaos. It's a great book about MK Ultra and the role that these guys that were running that program, that they interacted with Manson. They interacted with him in prison, and they think that they might have been the people that were supplying him with the acid. where he was using it to manipulate those kids. And the whole thing was to discredit the anti-war movement. They were trying to develop this attitude in America that hippies are dangerous and murderous. And, you know, these people that are like, stop the war, they're a threat.
Sure.
And so one of the ways they did it was this high-profile guy, Charles Manson. And they take this guy and they taught him how to run a fucking cult when he was in prison, most likely. They definitely.
What was he in prison for beforehand?
Oh, he's been in prison his whole life. His whole life.
Where's he from?
That's a good question. I don't know where Manson was from.
Thank you.
But the book Chaos, I can't recommend it enough. It's fucking incredible. The guy worked on it for 20 years. I've talked about it 100 times on the podcast. If you listened to it before, I'm sorry. But that guy, who is my friend Greg's neighbor, my friend Greg Fitzsimmons, he was this guy's neighbor like 20 years ago, and he was working on this. And he got hired to write a story about the anniversary of the Tate LaBianca murders. And when he got hired to write that story, he started finding all these inconsistencies in the story. And so he started doing like real journalism, and it just like he went on a deep dive, like way too long, and he wrote it for 20 fucking years.
Yeah.
And finally, they got together, they helped him with an editor, and they put it all together, and they put together this book. This book is insane. It's insane.
Yeah, dude. It's I don't know. That's such a crazy. It's so crazy. And the thing about, I don't know if it's harder to like pull the wool over people's eyes now rather than then. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know either.
Because there's so many different, like we were talking about the news.
Yeah.
You know, you go on the news and you get caught in this, it's like a perpetual, it's a wheel, you know what I mean? And you just keep getting, especially now due to the algorithms that we have, you just keep getting fed the same information to like perpetuate what you want to learn about and what they want you to know about. But back then, it wasn't as accessible. So I wonder if it was harder back then to like trick the populace into believing something than it is now.
I think it was probably easier because I think they probably had more respect for institutions because they didn't have the access to them that we have now. Like, think about what a president was like back then. Presidents openly had affairs. No one reported on it. They were just revered figures. It was a different thing. Like when Kennedy was the president, sure, definitely people hated him, especially Republicans. A lot of people hated him for the Bay of Pigs, but the press didn't hate him. You know, everybody knew who he was.
Right.
That's not the case today.